of FaceTime Facials. This is Miss Sonia Newland. Hey,
Hello,
hey
hello. How
girl, hey
y'all
girl.
doing? How y'all doing?
Sonia actually was exposed and tested positive for COVID. So I want her to be able to share with us her story and any recommendations. So, how are you doing today, Sonia?
I'm doing well. I actually told myself today I would not exert myself to the maximum, which I have found myself doing since I started to feel better. But understand, like with a lot of viral illnesses, you have a period of time where your body is still in recovery after your symptoms are have seemingly resolved. And you
Ooh.
may experience a degree of like a relapse in that time, which is what I have been noticing for like the last week or so.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so I do have to cue myself to listen to my body and still offer my body time and opportunity to rest.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, that's good that we're going to get into some self care while we talk about you as a positive tested COVID person. I don't even know if that makes any
Mm-hmm.
sense. uh,
COVID positive in this
COVID
case.
positive. Yes, I like that.
COVID positive.
So, what facial mask are you going to do with us today?
Well, I actually don't really do masks, I'll be
Okay.
honest.
All right.
I like to have a cleanser, an exfoliant, a toner,
Yes.
and a moisturizer.
Ooh, all of that. Here
So
for
that's
it.
kind of what I'm into. I do not have my toner here with me because I left that at my other residence.
Okay.
But I was using, I want to say it was like a Dr. Bonner's brand, some kind of rose petal water or whatever.
Oh, yes. I use personally Mario Badescu, his rose water toner, and game
Yes, and the
changer.
witch hazel ingredient is very calming,
Oh,
which I
yes.
think is important for your toners too. So today I have Aveeno Positively Radiant.
Okay.
And this has a bit of your cleanser and exfoliation qualities built into one product.
Okay.
Um, it's gentle, which you do have to be mindful of with scrubs. When scrubs are super abrasive, they can
Mm.
actually be damaging to the skin and can cause little micro tears. So you don't want your facial scrub to feel like absolute sandpaper. That's probably not the best for you.
Oh, dang.
Um, so you want to be mindful, like scrubbing to death is not always good, but a gradual scrubbing and consistent scrubbing will
Oh,
give you
okay.
gradual, gentle removal of those layers of skin so that you don't have any kind of inflammatory response or maybe results in like pimples and stuff after the scrub because you were too aggressive.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know if you've ever experienced that after a scrub, you almost get a breakout. Like you woke something up.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's coming to the surface or whatever.
Yeah, because that's going to be detrimental to the health of your skin in some kind of fashion. And while we're young and resilient, I don't think we see those effects as much. But we have to think about the future of our skin.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do now is important. And as we are women in our 30s, it's already like time to
Yeah.
be on a regimen, not only for managing your moisturization, but your anti-aging.
Okay.
So that's I also have an apricot scrub, which everybody knows about the St. Ives.
Yeah. A lot of estheticians hate that. I don't know like the positive and negative.
It is more abrasive, and this is just what I was talking about. So this is
Ah.
not something that I would ever use every day.
Okay.
I might do this once a week or every other week, just to
Okay.
kind of give a more aggressive exfoliation because you will notice that your skin starts to get dull or you start getting little whiteheads and stuff if
Mm-hmm.
you're not removing that top layer as often. So that's
Gotcha.
helpful for me with regards to that. Then, as far as my daytime moisturizer, I have Shiseido Beneficence. I'm sorry,
Okay.
and this offers an SPF option, which I do think is important for your daytime moisturizers because even though we have very melanated skin, you
Mm-hmm.
still need to consider that you need to protect from UV rays. We are still receiving damage,
Yeah.
micro damage with that sun exposure.
So what about the
Sometimes
SPF like reapplication? So like the number on it determines how many minutes after that you need to reapply.
is only SPF 18. And some of the even foundations and stuff that you have or the tinted moisturizers that I may add in over that are going to also have added SPF protection.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be in direct sunlight, like on a beach
Yeah.
or at a poolside, I'm not even dealing with this. I'm dealing with a real sunscreen
Gotcha.
that offers a lot more protection. But underneath makeup, I use this because the issue with the SPF under the makeup is, for me, it creates a ton of oil production.
And
It's
ghost
very
face.
greasy. Yep, it's
Like
very
this.
greasy on its own. Right. It's very greasy on its own. And you will also find that a lot of anti-wrinkle, anti-aging products come off very greasy. But
we don't need that.
Yes, you do. Because
the
wrinkle
grease?
prevent... Well, we don't need the grease, but you need the moisturization aspect.
Yeah.
But to find something that's non-comedogenic, non-greasy, and has SPF, that's where the trouble is. As far as my experience goes. Anything, once they add SPF, you get in that greasiness.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I will probably use this twice a day, this cleanser here. I also like to use Cetaphil.
Yes.
This is a gentle cleanser. Sometimes I'll do that in the morning and the more exfoliating product in the evening.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't want to like exfoliate and then be out in the elements, right?
Yeah, you don't need to exfoliate twice a day.
Facts.
Sometimes when I use my what was I gonna say? What's the cream I just said? Cetaphil. I'll use a little baby washcloth. I like to have a baby washcloth just to offer a little bit of agitation, to avoid using my fingers. Sometimes I don't always want my fingers on my face. And I'll use it maybe twice before I wash it. So it offers me a little bit of exfoliation. I feel like it lifts makeup off a little better than just my fingers, because that's a very gentle, mild cleanser.
Now, do you use makeup wipes?
I do use makeup wipes, but seldom. I think I do that more when I know I'm not about to just go wash my face right after. So I might just be like, let me just take some of this off, do what I gotta do, and I'll go wash my face later. So it's more like a hold me over type of thing. Then at night, no matter what I've done to my face, I like to use an oil.
Okay.
This is from L'Occitane, L'Occitane. And this is called Immortelle Divine, and it's an oil, like a youth oil. It's basically Huile Jeunesse Divine, so like a youth oil.
Okay.
And it has like a little pump mechanism up top,
cute.
And then it creates like a dropper effect, and you can put a few drops on your hand, put it directly on your face, and then I'll just massage that in, and I feel like it really doesn't clog the pores, offers great moisture without being overly greasy. And again, it's not something I use by day. It's meant more for nighttime.
That's true, because your skin is always so bomb. So thank you for sharing those tips with us. I used today, the first time, the Ultimate Detox Mud Mask.
Is that what you were painting on?
Yes. Yes, that's what I was painting on. I do realize it's like super absorbent in certain areas. Like I put mad of it right here, and my skin just sucked it up. I don't really know what that means, but we'll find out.
Greasy there usually?
Huh?
Do you get greasy there usually?
No, I'm usually greasy here and here, like on the side. So this is interesting how this kind of like just absorbed. Also, I did wash my face before this, so it's probably just dry. There's no moisturizer on it. But it has green clay with blueberry and willow bark extract. And it says you can...
Does it tingle or burn?
I think it's very mild. And it's not really thick. It's more like watery, actually. And it has to use once or twice a week. So it's pretty mild if it's recommending twice a week. But it was from TJ Maxx, and it was $5. And
I have a question. When you apply it with a brush, what kind of brush is it that you're using? Is that specific for mask, or is it like a makeup brush that you just designated for that purpose?
This is just a foundation brush. It has a foundation and like a contour tip too, but I only use like the fat side, and it's a little tinted yellow because I like to do turmeric, aloe, and raw honey mask, so it changed the colors of it. Those I do like every other day, just to kind of help clear up any of like the hyperpigmentation. It has been working. So that'll be another YouTube video to show how to make the mask and the results that I had. I was using some vitamin C oil, and that clogged my pores, and I had a horrible breakout. I had like big cystic acne like all on my cheeks. It was so bad. And I know like vitamin C, I had it in like a lotion form, like a night cream, but I wanted like the actual extract of the oil. Apparently, my skin just really was just not here for it, so
Right.
I
See, I don't
suffered.
know much about the vitamin C oil. I've heard of vitamin E though.
Yeah, I definitely heard of vitamin E after I had the vitamin C tragedy. So
Okay. Okay. Got you. Yeah. And that's the crazy part. That even if the products are natural, like you can still have a crazy reaction.
yeah,
Because a lot of people like to stay natural and stay away from the manufactured products, but I feel like everybody's body is very different.
yeah, for
So
sure.
you have to do what works for you.
Yes. All right, let's get into the corona. Corona. Auntie Rona, she's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
Tell me about your experience. How were you exposed? Did you know you were exposed? Like, you know, your journey of illness.
Take you back to the beginning. I am guesstimating that I was exposed to coronavirus in the first 2 weeks of March. I was at the time working in New York City and commuting on New York City transportation, which required about a 45-minute ride each way. So that's twice a day, 45 minutes. I'm in an enclosed train car with strangers who have an array of issues going on that you wouldn't maybe not be able to see at face value. Do I recall someone coughing and sneezing excessively next to me? No. Do I recall somebody maybe taking a tissue and wiping their nose? Sure. Is that alarming typically? No. I was also working in a corporate building, and my patients, many of which are high up the chain at this particular corporation, travel often on airplanes and internationally. What countries? I mean, it's variable. This is a pharmaceutical company, so they could be going all over the world, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm a physical therapist, my line of work does not allow for any social distancing with the types of treatments that I'm performing. So a lot of times I'm up right in my patients' faces doing techniques on their neck, their shoulder, their back, etc. So the opportunity for the droplets or aerosol transmission with that setup was very high. So the initial onset, I'm going to say for me, was about March 8th, 9th maybe, where I noticed I was starting to just feel warm. No fever, but just like that flushed feeling.
Okay.
In addition to that, I had this slight burning and aching in my chest and in my middle to upper back.
Oh.
And it was almost like, I was stiff. I was always on the computer, so I'm thinking I just need to stretch. Then I started to get sniffles. And I said, oh, that's weird. I don't typically get sniffles. Maybe I'm coming down with a little cold. That persisted for about 4 days, accompanied with just feeling like, am I getting a scratchy throat? But the biggest symptom I was noticing was that burning and aching in my thoracic area was getting worse. I had like my last hoorah, a couple nights out in Harlem, the weekend of, I guess it was maybe the 12th, 13th, whatever that was, and was in, more crowded spaces, but kind of setting ourselves apart from the crowd, typically through the night. Either way, you're having conversation, you're in passing, you're in an enclosed area.
Yeah.
Could have been an opportunity, but I feel like I was already experiencing symptoms before that even happened. Before I even went out on the town. So then things kind of started shutting down from there. I returned to work because my clinic's closed, doing circulations in Costco warehouses. I did that for 2 days. And if you've seen in the news at all, Costco was mentioned as showing a high rate of infection.
Yeah. I remember seeing that in the news.
So here I am with what became the epicenter in the U.S. and in environments where it was probably a little easier or more high risk to become exposed.
Right.
After the 2 days of working, I started to feel again like that burning and aching was getting worse. And then my body temperature started to climb in the evening, which is what you may typically see with these viral infections. Evening time, your temperatures will start to climb.
I wonder, why is that only in the evening?
I don't really know if something happens with your metabolism or what. I don't know. But beyond that, I started to notice that my temperature was going up to what would be considered a low grade fever, which ranges from 99.4 to about 100.1 or something like that.
Okay.
So I was in that range of the 99 something, but the body aches started to kick in.
Oh, that's like the flu.
Immediately. So when I get my body aches, yes, it's all over your body. Sensitivity to touch. All your muscles are aching. You feel weak. You feel fatigued. So I slept on it. I took Tylenol, 500 milligram, and slept on it. Woke up in the morning and my fever was over 101.
Oh.
So and really, I'm not going to say that because when I first woke up, I said to myself, I don't feel better. I probably need to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And I let it go a couple hours. And just in letting it go a couple of hours, the fever went from somewhere in the 99 range to over 100.1. It had surpassed that. Then through the day, it climbed to the high 100s. And by the end of the day, I was at a fever of 101. I maintained ultimately a fever of 102 for about 3.5 days before I just started to sweat it out.
That's insane.
In that time, because they kept describing a dry cough as being one of the classic signs, I never had a dry cough. I had a wet, mucousy cough.
Okay.
And it was infrequent, and it did not hurt me at the time. Once I started drinking water, I think that assisted in breaking my fever, on top of just keeping Tylenol in my system around the clock. Other than that, I did no other medications. I did no vitamins. Interestingly enough, my appetite did not suffer in the first 3-4 days of being sick.
What about your loss of smell? Because they said that's like a big factor. Loss of smell, loss of taste.
So I'll get to that.
Oh, okay, let me.
It was 3-4 days of high fever, body aches, fatigue, a wet cough. By the midday to evening time, I started sneezing like crazy. Sneezing incessantly. I am not an allergy sufferer. Don't have allergies. Don't have that problem. Sneezing so then it started to feel like a common cold. Okay. Yeah. After I felt like I had the flu, I felt like I had a common cold. As I'm sneezing excessively, I then still had a little bit of a wet cough. Within 3 to 4 days of that, no fever still, I started to notice I had absolutely, out of the blue, no taste, no sense of smell for only maybe 2 days. 2 days. And I thought to myself, I have not been congested long enough or severely enough for my taste to disappear. Because I thought maybe it was linked to congestion. And I'm like, because when you're stuffed up, you don't taste as well. But this was just like completely no taste. Wow. Just spontaneously. And then it came back. From there, the sneezing started to die down. I then had a little bit of like what felt like, a morning cough when you have postnasal drip.
Okay.
That lasted for about a week, and then everything just went away. I felt good enough to take a 3-mile jog, start exercising, clean, all kind of stuff. In this time, I was self-isolating within a home with other people. So I wasn't going to community areas. When I had to use the bathroom, I had a can of Lysol, and I put on my N95 mask.
Okay.
To move about my house to just avoid any droplet precautions,
Gotcha.
Spread of droplet. The N95 is raved about because it has a higher filtration rate than a lot of the other masks available. I think it's like 95% or more. So what that means is when I speak, there's probably no chance of any of my droplets escaping as long as it's a good fit, a good seal, top and bottom.
Okay.
Then for other people, that protects them from my spray. As far as them talking to me, I still have other orifices that potential virus could enter, even with mask on. So when you see people out in the community with their mask not fully sealed to their face, it's not doing the job to prevent you from spreading or you from breathing in other people's droplets.
Wow, okay.
And studies have shown that your droplet projection, even with regular talking, so not even with coughing and sneezing, is going to be like a 6-foot distance around you. And that's typically going to rise and fall, those droplets. and they may linger in your space or in that space that you were speaking in for up to 20 minutes. And so that means anyone in that vicinity for a 20-minute span of time could be touched by your spray.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
that's
like in enclosed spaces with no ventilation is where you run into difficulties.
okay.
So let's think about the spread in New Rochelle where they talked about the bar mitzvah
Mm-hmm.
that a Jewish lawyer had attended, and then all of a sudden they had all these COVID cases. You're in an enclosed area, you got community surfaces being touched, and you have that droplet effect.
Right.
And it spreads like wildfire from one to the other, and you're just kind of marinating in that.
Like a
Yeah.
petri dish of infection.
Literally. And typically we think nothing of it because we've all been exposed to cold and flu and never got it. But the way that COVID is so aggressive is why people are, why our government and while our health organizations are pushing this social distancing and this quarantining.
Yeah.
So anyway, after my symptoms seemingly went away and I ramped up my activity, I finally got called back to go and take my COVID-19 test.
So how did you get permission, or how did you let them know, like, hey, I need a COVID test?
What happens is that you could call a local medical facility. I called the White Plains Hospital. They asked me to run down whatever symptoms I was experiencing, and from there, they would either make the recommendation to call the Department of Health or no, you're okay. The doctor I spoke to said, sounds like you definitely could have been exposed. Call this number for the Department of Health. I called that 888 number or whatever it was, and you basically have a representative, non-medical healthcare professionals. It's just like a volunteer.
Okay.
That will take all of your information down, including your symptoms, your location, and what site you may be eligible to go to. They then tell you, I don't know when they're going to call you back, but they will.
So do they ask you, like, where have you been about? And since your symptoms seem to be, like, so staggered and not, like, collective as once, did they think, like, maybe you didn't, or?
Well, they did say from the standpoint of fitting criteria, being younger, you automatically kind of get shooed, and that's how they were treating us in the beginning. Because they're like, oh, you're young, you're healthy, you're probably fine, whatever. If you feel sick, you might have it, so just quarantine for 14 days and move on. But they definitely ask you about exposure to someone who has it, international travel to the countries that have been affected and that were being reported in the news a month ago. And if you're having shortness of breath, that was a big question.
Okay.
So if you're not complaining of that stuff, they're definitely not going to prioritize you. If you have no pre-existing conditions, to me, it seemed like they're not going to prioritize you. And if you are of a younger age, once again, they may not prioritize you. Now, how randomized the selection of who gets called into the testing center or not is, I have no clue.
Okay.
But also, I think it was about the timing, because this we're talking about was like 30 days ago when everything was still kind of freshly being, kind of being launched.
Yeah.
The tests were a lot more scarce. The process was a lot more questionable.
Yeah. They didn't have, like, anything solidified at all.
No, availability, I think, was the concern, because it took them over 2.5 weeks to call me to be tested, and I was sick.
So you got sick. Well, you got exposed-ish March 8th and 9th. You had your last hurrah outside March 12th. Then
I called to request my test maybe around March 22nd.
Okay.
Because I was kind of like, well, I don't know. Should I come out of quarantine? I'm feeling a little better. I don't really know what my status is. I got my call back the Saturday of the weekend of Easter. So what was that?
April 11th.
Yeah, so April 11th. So from the 22nd to April 11th.
So about 3 weeks.
I waited for them to call me back for that test. They called me and they said, well, since you're a healthcare professional, why don't you come on and get it even though you're feeling better? I mean, it's up to you. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? Let me get it. I'll probably test negative. Maybe I'll get the antibody test and see how that goes. Maybe I can be a blood donor.